This is the second video in the series of drawing a house using AutoCAD 2024. In this video we will add the walls, and for reference this is what the wall layout should look like by the end of the video. The first thing we need to do then is go to Layer Properties and create a new layer. So let's call that GA for my initials, GA Walls. Because it's copying it from the layer above there, it has picked up the lock property of that other layer. So let's unlock it, choose the color index 3, the green, and then because this is a denser material for the walls, let's choose a thicker line weight. And let's just double click on that to make it current. So what we can do is draw a rectangle over the outline of the layouts for the ground floor here. This is a semi-detached house, so we will need to fix that in a moment, but we can offset a distance by 350 millimeters. And that is 100 millimeter inner leaf, 150 millimeters cavity, and 100 millimeters outer leaf. So as I said, this is a semi-detached house, so we need to show where the building is attached at the side. So now that we have the layouts, we can explode those lines, and then we can use the extend tool to make the line a bit longer, just at this point. And then we can delete that line. We can offset by 100 just to help us get the extent of a break line here. So we draw a line down at this point, and then we want to have a line at an angle. So let's choose an angle of 15% there. The distance doesn't overly matter, but make sure that the angle is locked in at 15% there. And then we can, let's see, I think I'll actually mirror that and erase the source object. Okay, I just want that line to go this direction. So move it from the midpoint to the midpoint there. And that's offset again by 100 millimeters. And this time offset the other directions. It's a little bit convoluted, I know, to get a break line here, but it's useful just to be able to draw this. We do need to use the intersection point there, so if your snaps aren't working correctly, you can right click down here and add intersection to make sure that does work. So intersection, and then let's mirror it the other way also. And now what we can do is use the trim tool to trim out what we don't need, like so. And also we want those bits of lines moved in the middle there. And now we can delete the lines that we don't need. And again, we can trim some of the wall lines here now as well. The final thing that might be useful to do is just to select all of these items and to create a block. So B is the shortcut to create a block, or you can use the create block tool up here. Where do we want as the base point for that? Let's choose the middle of the slope line in the middle, and we'll call it break line. Click OK, and that is now a block, so it's easier to select that. What we also want then is that down at this end of the building, so we can copy this. In fact, it's probably a good idea to mirror it, and let's just make sure we get the midpoint of the internal line of the party wall as such, and then we can extend that line and trim this line. And just for completeness then, What we could do is copy over the first floor plan, or from the ground floor plan to the first floor plan. Now at this stage you could trace over the layouts, but it is useful to hide that layer and just make sure that you're following the correct dimensions. It's a good opportunity to double check you've got all the dimensions correct if you're following the video. So 2000 millimeters for these 3 rooms, 3500 for the first one at the bottom, 2100. Hold on a moment, we actually need the wall thickness, so 100. We can offset that one, and then offset by 2100. Choose the top line, and 2600 from the top down. Just a good opportunity to double check everything is going to show correctly here. We can now use the trim tool to make sure we get everything correctly drawn. We can open up the junctions of all the walls because it's all going to be concrete blockwork interleaf in my case. If it was a stud wall, you would want to retain the line there. So for example, if it was concrete blockwork for the inner leaf of the cavity and then timber or metal studs inside, you would retain the line there just to show the different materials. So the next room size is 4200, and it's maybe useful just to offset 4100 from the other side to double check. There is a 100 millimeter gap in there, so let's just check that. 100, that's grand. So the trim tool. And then if we turn the layouts layer back on, we don't see any red lines, so I must have drawn all of the layouts correctly. At this stage, you could use the same principle for the walls for the first floor, but I know I've drawn those accurately. So alternatively, you can use the trace tool. It's best not to draw that using the rectangle tool because we do need the lines to be separated later when we're drawing the door openings and things like that. So again, I'm just tracing over these lines for speed for the video. Again, just making sure we're accurately snapping to the various points involved. I made a mistake there, so Control Z fixes that or undoes that. What we could do is just finish off with the small space here. Now, do bear in mind that you should have locked the layouts layer, because if you haven't locked that, you can make some mistakes, especially when you're trimming and so on. So let's just trim out the junctions where the walls meet the outer leaf. Sometimes you need to zoom in a little bit more than I had done there, just to get it accurately. One more to do. So that's the way the walls, both internal and external walls, have now been done, and it's important that you add the break lines just to indicate on both floors that it is a semi-detached house and the construction continues, probably as a mirrored image.